Good afternoon, Kate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. In sunny Devon, it's beautiful here today.
It looks it, and we're so pleased that you've been able to join us for this very special International Women's Day series of conversations. First of all, tell us more about Orbis Expeditions.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. So Orbis Expeditions is run by myself and my husband. We lived over in a small country in Africa called Malawi. We're running a travel company there. And when we came back to the UK, we wanted to start a UK side of the company, really specialising in trying to do travel with a purpose. So getting people out to most incredible destinations, but really having a purpose behind them and making sure that there's economic benefits go to local people, as well as sort of interaction and collaboration. So Orbis Expeditions, my part of it is very much pushing sort of social impact trips and getting in particular women to come out and doing these short, impactful, purposeful expeditions.
And why specifically the women's impact expeditions? What made you start that side of the business up?
So I was living in Africa and struggling to get pregnant actually, and had to come back to the UK to do IVF, and ended up having two children in very quick succession, my second being a girl, and continuing to work in Africa, but really kind of understanding more what it meant to be a female business owner within an environment that's largely led by men. And I really felt the juggle between trying to have young children and work, and felt that that was a juggle that was felt across the continents, even though such different backgrounds between me and the Malawian women that I was collaborating with. But I just thought there's such an opportunity here for us to do a partnership. We're bringing some incredible people over to Africa anyway, and I'm meeting some incredible people in Malawi. What would happen if we sparked the two together and could create an incredible collaboration between two sets of women who were both passionate about business and trying to make their own mark on the world, I guess.
Absolutely. There's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similarities and probably a lot of shared experiences.
Yeah.
So the women who do your expeditions that are UK based, what kind of backgrounds do they come from, and what do they all have in common?
I think their backgrounds are very mixed. I think it's easy to start with what they have in common. I think that they all have a real yearning for adventure, for doing something for themselves. It might be that they've dedicated a lot of their life to their career or to their families, or have had circumstances which have meant that they haven't really been able to put themselves first. And it's often a once in a lifetime opportunity to go and do an adventure. But they also really want that adventure to be something that's meaningful, and they want it to be something that's not voyeuristic or not kind of charity driven. They want it to be something that's very much a two-way process. But in terms of the differences, I think that's what really makes it so special, the trips, because people come from all over the world, but from the UK, all different parts and all different businesses as well. We really try and get teams that have got people who are architects or engineers or marketing specialists or PR, or like female entrepreneurs who've started their own small businesses. So it's a real kind of melting pot. And actually the conversations and the work that they do with the Malawian businesswomen is just as incredible as what happens around the campfire afterwards in the evening, within the team, or hiking the mountain, or kayaking on the lake, or staying on the island. It's an incredible group. And I myself would so empowered and inspired by the people that travel with us, as well as the people who we meet and work with. So yeah.
Can you share any kind of the sort of success stories of what the women in Africa may have sort of done with the experience and the advice that they've gained from the women coming over for the challenge?
Yeah, I can share both actually, with people who have been with us, but also people within Africa. So people who have been with us, I think one of the biggest things it gives people is the confidence. We've had a few people who have been on our trips who have since kind of taken the plunge to start their own companies, or have worked for big organizations and then gone, I reckon I can actually do this on my own. And I think a big part of that is the confidence that they've learned from leading workshops on our trips, or kind of seeing women facing massive challenges out in Africa and being like, well, if they can do it, I can do it, But in terms of, the ladies in Africa, a few of the women we've worked with have since gone on and won quite big grants in order to be able to grow their businesses. But they've also created collaborations between themselves, which wouldn't have happened if we hadn't come out. So they might not be in contact with everybody they met from the international side, but they still have their WhatsApp groups and their groups in which they're talking amongst themselves. So they're inviting each other to business events or doing business with each other from the times that they've met, because we kind of created an opportunity to bring together lots of different entrepreneurs in Malawi who didn't know about each other before. So a big part of the time is them just chatting amongst themselves, going, oh, you do that, my cousin does this, da, la, la. It's been quite a nice circular process. We've had quite a lot of people coming to us who have traveled with us, not on the impact trips, just on leisure trips, who've then said, we want to give back, how can we help? So I'll say, well, we're working with this female entrepreneur who does this, do you want to buy some products from her? So it's sort of, she then gains benefit from other parts of our business as well. It's been an incredible process and thing to be part of, both looking at how people change from being on the trips, but also how they're able to develop from the exposure as well. So, yeah.
And what kind of, I guess, everything's changed so much in the last few years, really. Have you seen any sort of patterns or trends evolving, kind of what people are looking for with kind of impactful trips like this?
Yeah, I think that people are asking questions more about what kind of impact we're what's the objective behind the trip, and kind of also what's the sustainability around it, like how long term is this, how can we continue to build those links? I don't just want it to be a one-off, or they're really thinking about what their footprint is when they travel over, sort of what is it, not just in terms of the environment, but in terms of kind of, so where is my money going, and wanting to sort of really delve deeper into the culture and taking it very seriously what their responsibility is as a traveller. And I think that's always been the forefront of what we've done, but I feel like now the travellers are catching up and wanting that and expecting that, like they should do, and we've luckily we're already in that space. But I do think that people are asking questions more, and we don't need to educate travellers more. Like when we first started working 15 years ago, we were, right back to basics of educating people about, cultural awareness and photography and all those sort of basic things that you do. Whereas now people have got that, but they want to go more. What am I going to do with my carbon? What am I going to do with the links that I make? And asking more questions. And I think people are becoming more intelligent as travellers as well, and they're demanding more from the people they travel with. So I do think that there has been a shift. We just need to build back the trust in the industry now that it is, safe to travel again, and that, and we've just got to make sure now as an industry that we have good cancellation procedures in place and all of those sorts of things. And people can, with us, our lead-in times are really big, it's sort of 9 to 12 months, which is a really difficult space to be in, because it's not sort of like, okay, everything's okay in the country at the moment, let's go for it. It's sort of that risk factor of, I don't know if I want to book something so far in advance.
I guess it's the amount of planning and getting the right people involved at the right time with the right projects. It's it's not a spur of the moment holiday. As you said, there's so much more in traveling in that way. So it has to be well thought out and planned. What would you like to see evolve for women in the future? You've got the benefit of seeing both Africa and and Europe, and I think a lot of the time when we're talking about International Women's Day, the word international is quite often missed off, and you're actually kind of living and breathing it. So what would you like to see in the future for women, if people can learn anything from International Women's Day?
I think that I've always really, really wanted more businesses to get involved. Like there's so many individual women within large corporations who are like, oh yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to champion coming out to Africa and doing these sort of things. And then they come back and they're like, I want to get my business involved. And they might do that for sort of 6 months. And then, their business agenda moves on to something else. And the power that could have from, let's say, a once a month opportunity over Zoom for a business to put 3 or 4 women and 3 or 4 women over in Africa, and they could kind of just do a business sharing thing for 1 hour, but there to be a commitment to do that for 18 months, and would be incredible. And actually it would be an amazing opportunity for a business to get involved in their CSR, for their staff to do business development, for something that didn't necessarily need to lead to a trip abroad, but could be a way in which women could connect internationally. Because there's quite often around International Women's Day, there's sort of one-off events, and there's like, yeah, no, our company links with a company in Africa. Well, how often do you do that? It needs to be something. There's so many problems with doing it, especially in our part of Africa, like things like internet and so you need to have that commitment and that momentum to know that, yeah, we're going to be here. We do that with our company in Malawi. I get messages all the time from the ladies, Kate, you did it, for 3 years running. What's happened this year? Because they expect it again now. It's not just a one-off. And I think when you work in that space between charity and business, quite a lot of charities tend to come in, do some work, and then kind of move on to the next thing, especially at an international level. Whereas I think with the International Women's Day and business, there's a real opportunity to say, right, for the next 3 years, our business is going to do this and we're going to commit to this. I think that could be incredible, and that you could see so much learning from both sides and so much inspiration from both sides in business development. And that real understanding that International Women's Day isn't about, oh, let's spotlight some sort of 3 or 4 struggling Malawian entrepreneurs. It's like, let's spotlight 3 or 4 incredible entrepreneurs in Malawi, and what can we learn from them, because it's really about that. What can we learn from them? Nearly everything I've learned about resilience, adaptability, creativity, imagination in business has all come from my work in Africa, and all of that you don't go and do your masters for. That's from just practical experience and meeting people and hearing stories and listening and learning from one another. And that's what it kind of represents for me, International Women's Day. It's a kind of commitment to collaboration.
I mean, it's quite often, I guess the lens on it is quite often about gender issues and gender inequality, but I think what you're saying is it's about women championing women and supporting women, and that's actually what it could be about. It's not necessarily about that disparity between genders. This could just be focused purely on on women supporting women.
Yeah, and I think it's not also all about the disparity between you're from a rich country and you're from a poor country, and you don't have the skills that we have, the advantage of having. It's like, well, okay, so we have these skills and this kind of training in our country. You have that in your country. Wow, like some of the leapfrogs that have been made in Malawi, they've never had landlines, for example. They don't really have electricity. They're already all on solar. They do so many different things to what we do. They pay for everything on their mobile phones way before we had Monzo or any of these sorts of things. And they do all their business through WhatsApp. And it's just really different and really fascinating and important to learn, I think. I was talking to a lady the other day through this World Bank work that I'm doing, and she was saying that all of the training stuff that we're putting together for Africa is kind of, it's there and it's great, but why don't we try and do something exciting and something different, and not just assume that everybody in Africa needs it at a basic level? Why don't we just say, hang on a minute, you do everything differently in Africa, so let's just take a chance and do this a little bit differently, and let's leapfrog a few of these stages and go straight into new technology as opposed to just doing paper written exams or whatever. So yeah, I think it's looking at collaboration, but looking at kind of not looking at the differences, but looking at the incredible inspiration that's out there.
Well, it's there's such a great opportunity for people to get involved. So I'm sure our audience will be really, really fascinated to hear about what you've got to say about Orbis Expeditions, and hopefully get more people involved. So thank you so much for talking to me this afternoon, Kate, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much. It's been fantastic. And yeah, we're going out to Morocco in September, October time, if anybody wants to come with us. So
amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.